Why aren't you running, human? His reply turned her cold. Part 1: The Hunt. Commander of the Dominion stood on the bridge of her warship, the Silent Fang, and watched the human colony ship drift through the darkness of space. 3 cycles she had tracked this vessel. 3 cycles of patient hunting through empty systems and forgotten trade routes. Now, at last, her prey had nowhere left to run. There were predators. Every child of the Dominion knew this truth from birth. They were sleek and powerful, their scales the color of deep water, their eyes made for darkness and blood. For 10,000 years they had conquered worlds and devoured civilizations. They were perfect hunters, and the galaxy was their hunting ground. And humans were their favorite prey. Flexed her claws as she studied the damaged ship on her. The vessel was called the New Dawn, such hope these creatures put into their names. It was a colony transport, one of hundreds that fled human space after they began their great hunt 30 years ago. Most of these ships had been caught and emptied long ago. This one had been clever. This one had hidden well. But even clever prey must stop to breathe, and the New Dawn had made a mistake. Their drive is damaged, her second Al reported from his station. They cannot jump again. They are calling for help on open channels, but there are no human ships within range. How many souls aboard? Our scans show approximately 400 life signs, civilians mostly, families. His tongue flickered with pleasure. Families meant children, and children meant fear. The fear scent of young ones was particularly sweet. Prepare boarding parties, she ordered. I will lead the first wave myself. Al's crest rose in surprise. Commander, there is no need. The prey cannot fight. We could simply. I have not tasted a hunt in too long. Turned from her scales catching the dim light of the bridge. I want to see their faces. I want to hear them scream. This is what we are, Al. Never forget the joy of what we are. 20 minutes later, stepped through the breach in the New Dawn's hull. The air was thick with smoke and the sharp smell of burning metal. Emergency lights painted the corridors in red and orange. And beneath it all, like music, came the sound she loved, screaming, crying, the desperate patter of running feet. Her hunters spread through the ship like shadows. They knew their work. The colonists fled before them, scrambling through hatches and crawling into vents. Some tried to fight with tools and kitchen knives. These died first, their bodies left as warnings in the corridors. Most simply ran because that was what prey did. That was what made them prey. Stalked through the chaos, drinking in the terror. A human female saw her and stumbled backward, clutching a child to her chest. The fear scent was intoxicating. Please, the woman whispered, please, not my daughter. Let her pass. There would be time for the slow ones later. Right now she wanted to explore, to save her. She moved deeper into the ship, following the main corridor toward the engine section. Most prey fled toward the front of ships, toward the bridge and the escape pods. The engine rooms were usually empty. But as she approached the reactor core, she caught a strange scent on the air. It was human, certainly, that particular mixture of salt and warmth that all humans carried. But there was something different about it, something she could not name. The engine room door stood open. Inside, emergency lights cast long shadows across massive machinery. And there, sitting calmly among the reactor cores, was a human male. He was older than most, hair, weathered skin, the lines of many years carved into his face. He wore the simple coveralls of a ship's engineer, stained with grease and carbon scoring. Tools were spread around him in a careful pattern, and his hands worked steadily on some device she could not quite see. Raised her plasma rifle. The targeting beam painted a red dot on the center of his chest. The human glanced up. He noted the weapon, noted her, all scales and claws and death in the doorway. Then he returned to his work. This was wrong. Every instinct in his predator brain screamed that this was wrong. Prey ran. Prey screamed. Prey begged. They did not sit calmly and continue working while death stood before them. Why aren't you running, human? The question came out sharper than she intended. The old man paused in his work. He seemed to consider the question carefully, turning it over in his mind like a mechanic examining a broken part. Then he looked up at her, and she saw his eyes clearly for the first time. They were like old steel, and there was something in them that made her scales tighten against her spine. "Because I'm the one you should have been afraid of." The words hung in the smoky air. His finger tightened on the trigger, but she did not fire. She should have. Every training, every instinct, every lesson of her long career as a hunter screamed at her to put a bolt through his skull and move on. But something in his voice turned her cold, something ancient and patient in his steady gaze, something that made her, for the first time in decades, feel like prey. "Explain," she demanded, quickly. The old man set down his tools. He turned to face her fully, and she saw that the device in his hands was connected by thick cables to the reactor core behind him. "My name is Samuel," he said. 30 years ago, I was chief engineer of a ship called the Prometheus. Perhaps you've heard of it." Had heard of it, every had heard of it. The Prometheus was the great mystery of the First Contact War, a human exploration vessel that had vanished without trace after the initial invasion. Vanished along with an entire battle fleet sent to destroy it. 47 warships. Gone. No wreckage. No survivors. No explanation. "That's impossible," she said. "The Prometheus crew died 30 years ago." Samuel smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Did we?" Part 2, The Revelation. Did not lower her rifle. The targeting beam held steady on Samuel's chest, a single point of red light in the emergency-lit gloom of the engine room. Her mind raced through possibilities, through explanations, through any framework that could make sense of what stood before her. "You are lying," she said. "The Prometheus was destroyed. Our fleet was destroyed. Both were lost to some anomaly, a black hole perhaps, or an unstable wormhole." "That's what your Dominion believes." Samuel set the device down gently, keeping his hands visible. "It's a comforting story, easier than the truth." "And what is the truth?" "We killed them." The words were simple, flat, without emotion. "All 47 ships, 8,000 of your best hunters. We killed them, Commander, and then we disappeared." Scales rippled with what might have been a laugh. "You are insane. The Prometheus was an exploration vessel, minimal weapons, a crew of scientists and engineers. You could not have destroyed a single warship, let alone 47. "You're right," Samuel nodded. "In a straight fight we would have died in minutes, so we didn't fight straight." He reached slowly into his pocket, his claws tightened on the trigger, and a small data chip. He held it up between two fingers. "This contains the technical specifications for quantum drive technology. The Prometheus was the first human vessel to encounter your kind. When your fleet disabled us and boarded, we knew we were going to die. But our captain, a woman named Sarah Wright, she had an idea." "What idea?" "She told us to learn." Samuel's eyes held something ancient, something that had waited a long time for this moment. "While your hunters chased our crew through the corridors, while they played their games of fear, a few of us hid. We watched. We studied your technology, your weapons, your ships. We learned how your quantum drives worked, and we found a flaw." His tongue flickered nervously. "There is no flaw in technology." "There is now." Samuel gestured at the device beside him. "Your quantum drives are elegant, Commander. Brilliant, even. They fold spacetime in ways our scientists are still trying to understand. But they have one weakness. They're all networked. Every ship in a fleet shares the same quantum frequency for coordination. It makes your armadas efficient, synchronized, deadly. It also means that if you can generate a cascading feedback loop at exactly the right frequency." The drive's overload finished. Her voice had gone quiet. "All of them at once. It took us 3 hours to build the first device." Samuel smiled that cold smile again. "We had to cannibalize most of our ship to do it. But when we activated it, your entire fleet tore itself apart. 47 ships, 8,000 hunters, gone in less than a minute." The engine room felt smaller now. The air felt thicker. Could hear her own hearts beating, both of them too fast. "If this is true," she said slowly, "why did no one know? Why did your people not share this weapon? In 30 years you could have destroyed your dominion, perhaps." Samuel shrugged. "But we're not like you, Commander. We don't believe in genocide even against those who hunt us, and truthfully we wanted something more." "What could you possibly want more than victory?" Samuel leaned forward. The red targeting dot danced across his chest as he moved. "Understanding," he said. "You see, Commander, your people made a mistake when you started hunting us. You looked at humans and saw prey, weak creatures who run and hide and beg. And yes, we do those things. We run, we hide. When we have no other choice, we even beg." He stood slowly and took a step backward without meaning to. "But you misunderstood what you were seeing. On our world on Earth there were once great predators. Lions, wolves, sharks, creatures of speed and strength and sharp teeth. And they're mostly gone now. Do you know why? Because you hunted them. Because we persistence hunted them." Samuel's voice dropped to something almost soft. "Humans aren't prey animals, Commander. We're persistence predators, the most successful predators our world ever produced. We don't have claws or fangs or venom. What we have is patience. We track our prey for days, for weeks, for months. We follow them until they collapse from exhaustion, and then we finish them." He gestured around the engine room. 30 years, Commander. For 30 years, survivors from the Prometheus have been moving through human space. We let ourselves be rescued by colony ships that were later attacked by your kind. We studied your technology, your tactics, your culture. We learned your language, your history, your weaknesses. And in the quiet moments between hunts, we built devices like this one. Looked at the machine connected to the reactor core. Really looked at it for the first time. It was crude by standards. Human engineering was always crude, but there was something elegant in its simplicity, something purposeful. "You've been hunting us," she said. The realization crept through her like ice water. "All this time, while we thought we were the hunters." "You were the prey," Samuel nodded. "Running straight into the trap. Every attack, every hunt, every victory, you were just bringing your ships closer to where we needed them." The colonists' eyes widened. "The 400 people on this ship evacuated to the escape pods 10 minutes before you boarded." Samuel checked a device on his wrist. "By now, they're well out of range. The ship is empty, Commander. There's no one here except your hunting party, your support ships, your drone swarms. And you. And me." The old man sat back down among his tools. He picked up the device and turned a final dial. Something inside it began to hum. "The Silent Fang, 3 support cruisers, 47 hunter-killer drones." He recited the numbers like a prayer. All running on the same quantum frequency, all connected to the same network. Lunged for her communicator, but her claws found only static. She had felt nothing, no jamming signal, no electronic interference. The old man had simply waited until her people were deep inside the trap before closing it. "Communications have been blocked since you came aboard," Samuel confirmed. "Your ships can't hear you. Your hunters can't reach you. There's no one left to warn." "I'll kill you," raised her rifle. "I'll kill you right now." "You can." Samuel didn't flinch. "But the device is already running. My death changes nothing. The cascade will begin in approximately 4 minutes with or without me." For the first time in her life, understood what her prey had always felt. The walls pressing in, the options disappearing, the terrible, helpless certainty that there was no way out. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are you telling me this? Why not just let us die in ignorance?" Samuel looked at her with something that might have been pity. "Because killing isn't the point, Commander. It never was." He gestured toward the door. "There's one escape pod left in Docking Bay 7. I've kept it powered and ready. You have 3 minutes to reach it. You're letting me go. I'm giving you a choice." The old man's eyes held hers. "You can die here with your hunters and the Dominion will never know what happened. Another mysterious loss, another unexplained disappearance. Or you can live and carry a message back to your people." "What message?" Samuel smiled, a real smile this time, tired and sad and ancient. "Tell them the hunt is over. Tell them we're not prey, we never were." He turned back to his device, his work nearly done. "Tell them we were just waiting for them to come close enough." Part 3. The Cold. Ran. She had not run from anything since she was a hatchling, still learning to hunt in the training pens of the Dominion. Did not run. Were the reason other things ran. But now her claws scraped against metal flooring as she sprinted through the corridors of the new dawn, and she did not care about pride or honor or what she was supposed to be. She only cared about time. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. That was what remained when she fled the engine room. The human's words echoed in her skull as she ran. The cascade will begin in approximately 4 minutes, and every heartbeat felt like one less chance at survival. She passed one of her hunters in a corridor. He was young, barely blooded, dragging a wounded human by the ankle. He looked up as she flew past, confusion rippling across his scales. "Commander, what?" "Run," the word tore from her throat. "Get to the pods, run." But her communicator was still dead, and her voice would not carry far enough, and there was no time. No time to save them. No time to explain. She could only run and hope and feel the seconds bleeding away. Docking Bay 7 was on the opposite side of the ship. She had studied the vessel's layout before boarding. All hunters memorized their hunting grounds. And now that knowledge drove her through access tunnels and maintenance shafts, through corridors still scattered with the debris of her hunter's work. She passed bodies. Human bodies mostly, but a few too. Hunters who had found prey that fought back. Their deaths had seemed acceptable before, even glorious. Now they were just obstacles, their blood slick beneath her feet as she vaulted over them. 1 minute and 30 seconds. The docking bay doors loomed ahead, sealed and dark. Slammed into the manual release, claws tearing at the mechanism until it gave way with a screech of tortured metal. The doors slid apart, and there it was. A single human escape pod, still attached to its launch cradle, lights blinking green. Ready, just as the old man had promised. She threw herself inside. The pod was cramped, built for human bodies rather than, and she had to fold herself awkwardly into the pilot's seat. Her claws stabbed at the launch controls, following the simple human interface. Emergency launch, yes. Confirm, yes. Launch now. The pod kicked away from the new dawn with a force that slammed her back against the seat. Through the tiny viewport, she watched the colony ship fall away, growing smaller as the pod's emergency thrusters fired at maximum burn. 50 seconds. The silent fang hung in space beyond the colony ship, sleek and powerful and deadly. Her ship, her command. 300 hunters, the finest in her battle group, still aboard and waiting for her return. The support cruisers flanked it in perfect formation, and the drone swarms circled like carrion birds waiting for their feast. All of it running on the same quantum frequency, all of it connected to the same network, all of it about to die. 30 seconds. Tried the pod's communication system, but it was human technology, incompatible with frequencies. She pounded on the controls, hissing curses in her native tongue, but there was nothing. No way to reach them, no way to warn them. Just enough time to watch. 10 seconds. She had seen ships die before. Every hunter had. The flash of weapons fire, the bloom of explosions, the graceful tumble of wreckage through empty space. Death in combat was clean and quick and understandable. This was something else. The silent fang did not explode. It simply came apart. One moment it was a warship, proud and whole. The next moment it was breaking along seams that had never existed, its hull splitting like fruit, its interior spilling out into the vacuum in a silent cascade of metal and fire and bodies. The support cruisers followed. Then the drones. Ship after ship tearing itself apart from the inside, their quantum drives burning through their own hulls as the cascade loop fed on itself, growing stronger with each new failure. In less than a minute, it was over. Where the battle group had been, there was only debris, twisted metal spinning slowly in the starlight, bodies drifting in the cold. The new dawn itself was dark now, dead, its reactor spent powering the weapon that had killed her fleet. Stared at the wreckage. Her scales had gone, the color draining from them the way it did when it was in shock or dying. She was neither, but she felt both. 300 hunters, 3 ships, 47 drones, gone in 60 seconds, killed by an old man with hair and patient eyes. She thought of what he had said, persistence predators. We track our prey for days, for weeks, for months. We follow them until they collapse from exhaustion. 30 years. They had been tracking the Dominion for 30 years. The escape pod drifted through the debris field, its automated system steering it clear of the largest fragments. Sat frozen in the pilot's seat, watching pieces of her ship tumble past the viewport. She recognized some of them. A section of hull from the bridge, a thruster assembly from the main engines, a piece of armor plating with the Silent Fang's insignia still visible, burned and twisted but still there. All that remained of her command, all that remained of her hunt. Hours passed. The pod's navigation system finally locked onto a beacon, a relay station 4 days away at maximum thrust, programmed the course and let the autopilot take over. There was nothing else to do. She had time to think now. Too much time. The old man's words circled through her mind like predators around wounded prey. Tell them the hunt is over. Tell them we're not prey. We never were. She understood now what she had sensed in the engine room, that strange sense she could not name. It had not been the absence of fear. It had been the presence of something else, something that had no word for because they had never needed one. Certainty, the certainty of a predator who has already won. The Dominion had been hunting humans for 30 years, chasing them across the stars, cornering their ships and playing games with their fear. And all that time the humans had been hunting them back, watching, learning, waiting. We were just waiting for you to come close enough. 4 days later, Spod reached the relay station. She transmitted her identity codes and waited, watching the stars while the station's crew processed her request for docking. When they finally brought her aboard, they stared at her with confusion and something like horror. Commander, the station chief approached her cautiously, as if she might be a ghost. We received no reports from your battle group. Where are your ships? Where is the Silent Fang? Gone, her voice was flat. All of them gone. Gone how? Was it the humans? Did they have a fleet we didn't know about? Looked at the station chief. She looked at the other gathered in the docking bay, their scales bright with health and confidence, their eyes sharp with the certainty of predators. They had never felt what she had felt in that engine room. They had never watched their world turn inside out. I have a message, she said, for the Dominion, for everyone. A message from whom? From the humans. She pushed past the station chief, walking toward the communications array with steady steps. From the prey. The message she sent that day would reach every world in the Dominion within a week. It would spark debates in the High Council and panic in the streets. It would force for the first time in their long history, to consider the possibility that they were not the apex predators they had always believed themselves to be. But the message itself was simple, just a few words burned into the minds of every who heard them. The hunt is over, they were never prey, they were waiting, and now they are coming. Did not know if the humans would actually come. Perhaps they would remain in hiding, content to strike when they grew careless. Perhaps they would sue for peace, now that they had proven they could fight back. Perhaps they would do something else entirely, something no could predict because they had never truly understood what humans were. But she knew one thing with cold certainty. Somewhere out there in the darkness between stars, patient human eyes were watching. They had been watching for 30 years. They would keep watching, keep learning, keep waiting. And when they were ready, when they had gathered enough strength, enough knowledge, enough patience, they would act. Because that was what persistence predators did. Stood at the viewport of the relay station, looking out at the stars. They seemed different now, colder, full of shadows and secrets and things that watched from the darkness. For the first time in her life, she understood what it meant to be prey. And the understanding turned her cold. The end.